Hello, everyone, and inside today's Locked On Canadiens, we're talking make or break seasons.
You're Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 1119 of Locked On Canadiens, your daily Montreal Canadiens podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where you get your team every single day of the week, wherever you get your daily podcast, Google, Apple, Spotify, or here on YouTube.com. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, and remember to make every moment more, because as the playoffs have wound down and passed, the sports stop sportsing like we want them to, but this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. I am your host for today's episode. I am Scott Matla, of course. My co-host is currently in the process of moving, so I am taking this show today to kind of give you all something to start this Monday. As a heads up, my final show will be airing this week, and Hot Ones will be on Friday, August 2nd. We are making up the graphics for that 7:30 p.m. live stream. I will be doing Hot Ones again as the farewell to the farewell tour here. In August, the show goes down to 3 shows a week. So you'll probably get those Monday, Wednesday, Friday in your inbox with Laura and new co-host Ian Boisvert, formerly of the Build podcast. Follow him at Maybe It's Ian on the app formerly known as Twitter. What are we going to talk about? You know, the Canadiens have been quiet this offseason, and I have a plan for tomorrow's episode to talk about with Laura and bridge deals and contract ideas and everything that I wanted to bounce that off. But this idea formulated in my head as I was in the car on this very hot Sunday thinking, what can I do for a show? And I thought, it's a crucial year for the Montreal Canadiens. I don't think anyone is going to dispute that fact at this point right now. It's a very, very crucial season for a lot of reasons. And it is a make or break season in a lot of senses of the word. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll see the show notes on the side, make or break seasons and prospects of players. And we're going to get to those guys in the second half of the show here. But we're now coming into, what is this, year 3 of Kent Hughes, year 3.5 of Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton at the helm, following 2021, where the Canadiens bottomed out the 2022 draft. So let's call this year 3 of the Canadiens rebuild here. They bottomed out. First overall pick, Juraj Slafkovsky, and they took a risk out there. And it seems like it's paying off. A really, really good 2022 NHL draft class. 2023, a little bit uneven. David Reinbacher and some other picks that maybe weren't the favorites in there. Florian Xhekaj seems to be turning out pretty well. Jacob Fowler in there too. And then this past year, seemingly hitting a home run with Ivan Demidov and Michael Hage and some of the other guys in that group there. But at the professional level here, you have a Rocket team that went to a Eastern Conference final, lost in the first round the next year, didn't make the playoffs this past season, rehired that coach or extended that coach, lost that coach, and now have Pascal Vincent with a long history there. This is now the point that, okay, you're 3 years in, you went first overall, fifth overall. You've got more picks in this draft, which is great. There's still, Ken Hughes is very likely cooking something as we speak at this moment, and I don't know what it is. I'm not going to pretend to know what it is at this point because that's not my business. I don't know off the top of my head. And I look at this as now the Canadiens have hit their bottoming out point and have been slowly ramping up. Martin St. Louis extended for 3 more seasons. You have Hughes and Gorton there. You have assistant coaches in place. You have the AHL coaching staff in place. You've had very good drafts. You've extended your key players. Suzuki, long-term contract. Caulfield, long-term contract. Slafkovsky, long-term contract. We're waiting on something potentially for Caden Gooley this offseason. Guys like Xhekaj and Barron, maybe not key players, but the contract situation isn't dire. They are not out of cap space to try and sign these guys. This should be a year that is showing market improvement. And some of that is health. And that is absolutely, and we talked about if everything hinges on Kirby Dach next season. And I don't think it quite does, but it is a huge piece of this team that if they're healthy, some of those overtime shootout losses, if half of them are going in the other direction, you're looking at a team that's trending closer and closer to a playoff spot. And obviously, win in regulation. This is the first year, I think, in a couple of years that Canadiens fans are going, I want you to lose every game. This is a year where fans be like, I want them to be competitive. If you lose an overtime game and you got there, like, that's what I want to see. This is a season where, well, we're losing a game, but it was close, isn't always going to be good enough. Like, yeah, they lost to the Sharks last year. Great tanking points. You got Demidov out of it. Great. This year, that isn't likely going to fly as much. Yeah, if you lose to whatever the top team in the East might be, that isn't the worst thing in the world. But the expectation is you're not in fifth anymore at this point. You are, upper half, not in the playoffs, but this is a team that if you're not showing that improvement here, we start to look at the process here and go, where is our disconnect here? Where are we making mistakes? Is it a coaching thing? Is it a player thing? Is it something else? If it comes out this year with a team where they've extended the coach and the assistants that are there, they've extended the key players on this team, and they aren't quite getting to where they need to be, you're looking at where are we cutting away? Where are we making the change here? And Hughes and Gorton have shown they're willing to be bold with that move. They absolutely don't want to rest on their laurels. Be like, well, we're slowly trending upwards. Yeah, we were at the bottom here, and then we're kind of at the bottom. No, a little bit of improvement this year. This is a year where they want to see this team take that step. We saw it with Slavkovsky last year, and we've seen it with Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield over their career so far. We have seen it with Samuel Montembeault, some of the guys on defense. We've seen it with Caden Primo, even at the NHL level. Everybody needs to be pulling and taking that next step there. We don't know what Kirby Dach's next step looks like because of injuries last year and some injuries in the previous year. I believe it was a high ankle sprain for him. If all of these key pieces are slowly taking that next step, and that's the biggest thing is next steps. If this team isn't taking the next steps, they're going to go in and be like, this isn't working. What do we need to take that next step then? Because you don't want to set the rebuild back. I don't want this team to fluke into the playoffs. I think they have every ability to do so. But if you're jumping steps in this, I think that this is a team that's going to play it as it is. With Marc Bergevin, when they backed into the playoffs a couple of times, the wrong message was sent. Like, well, they're good enough to make the playoffs. Are they, though? This is a team that I want them to be competitive. I'm not anticipating the playoffs, but I want to see that growth. And here's the thing: nobody is likely getting fired this season unless things go catastrophically wrong. Like the team is healthy and producing nothing. I am not asking them to be, the deepest team in the NHL. I'm not asking them to score goals, to be the Florida Panthers, etc. I'm asking this team to be a step forward competitive, like Detroit, maybe just a smidge below where Detroit was the past 2 years. Be in that mix. Be the nuisance for everybody. And it's a make or break year because we're going to find out, has this process been working? If everything lines up like it looks like it is this year, minus Demidov coming over to North America, not till his contract's over, end of story on that, we're going to find this process along the way there. And if it has been working the way that we all think that it has been working, and I have no reason to doubt that based on the drafting results and the progress made by the prospects and all these other things here, I have no doubt that they're moving in the right direction so far, but we need to get the results for that. And if there's progress isn't there or there's a step back, something is changing here because they want this rebuild to continue. Canadiens fans have done very well tolerating what has been there so far, but there is more needed on that. And I'm very curious of what that's going to look like. I think that this is the most crucial year in this rebuild out of everything. I think this year is where they take that big step forward composure-wise, and then the year after that, this is a team that's looking like it should be in the playoffs at that point. This is the pivotal year where have they gotten it right or do they need to fix the formula? And that might be, is it certain players? Yeah, there's still some Marc Bergevin contracts they're working on. Can't do anything about that so much right now. We will talk about some of those deals later on in this episode, but this is the point where we figure out if the formula is dialed in or not. Are we going to get that nice big, poofy cloud of success mixture, or is it going to blow up in their face? We're going to find that out. And with that, which prospects need to take that next step? We're going to dive into those coming up next. But first, as I said off the top of the show, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, and it is summertime. It is the sports aren't sportsing like you want them to. The Olympics are in full swing. That is very much true, but hockey's over. Football's not back yet. College football's not back yet. The NBA is gone. But guess what? You don't have to miss out on all the fun because this summer, FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I got to do is open up the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood, because this summer, FanDuel is offering all customers, not new ones, not old ones, all customers, a booster bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone on FanDuel every day, all summer long. Just head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball and us here at Locked On. We are back here at Locked On Canadiens, or I should say I am back. My co-host is currently moving today, so I'm handling duties, LOL, for this podcast. And we're talking make or break. And when it comes to this, prospects are the biggest thing because everyone's like, is my favorite going to make it? Is my guy going to be that guy? And I racked my brain on this as I was driving, like, which prospects are kind of not a last chance, because I think a lot of these guys will be re-signed and probably play another year in the AHL potentially, but it is, when are you or can you do something this year to keep yourself in the plan for the Canadiens? Because it's going to get very crowded very quickly in the next year or so. Especially, it's already crowded in some facets here, and we're going to start on defense because the prospect I'm waiting to take that NHL step is William Trudeau. Last year and the year before that at the rookie showcase, he played so well at the rookie showcase that he got an entry-level contract out of it. Was not expecting him to get an entry-level contract out of it. And then he went from, all right, he's a young guy on this team, to being the everyman. He's on the power play. He's on the penalty kill. He's at crucial 5-on-5 situations, and he was thriving in that. And then this year, he looked phenomenal at the showcase again. Had a really good NHL preseason, and they're like, we just don't have the room right now. We're going to send you down to the Laval Rock. And I go, that's actually a good thing. Him and Mailloux should be a very good pairing together. He and Justin Barron, or Jaden Struble, or Matthias Norlinder, or whoever. It ended up being Toby Paquette-Bisson, who helped him a lot in that regard too. That will be, let's figure this out. And then he started the season, and I say this with nothing but the most compassionate criticism I have. He played terribly in that he looked like he was sulking a little bit in that, and that he wasn't that on ice steadying presence they needed. Second half of the season, he turned it around, and ironically, that's when the goaltending improved on everything. This was a guy that I really thought had the inside edge to, like, maybe the 7th defense spot, maybe a 6th defense spot here in the NHL. Matthias Norlinder ended up beating him out for that. I don't know if Norlinder was better. I thought he had a good preseason, but I thought Trudeau looked phenomenal. And then it just kind of fell off and came back. This is with guys like Lane Hutson joining the fold. You have David Reinbacher. You have Adam Engstrom. You have Mailloux again, too. Plus, you have Bogdan Konyushkov coming in the next couple years. It's going to get crowded. It is crowded right now. You're competing as of right now for spots. Jaden Struble's emergence was unexpected. Kind of a big deal. Lane Hutson, we know he's good. He's a big deal. Logan Mailloux's very strong rookie season is a big deal. For someone like William Trudeau, this is the year you have to really establish yourself. Yes, you're a steady AHL guy. That is phenomenal. That's a huge bonus. You're still a younger guy in this organization, but you have 2 pro years now. Now is the time where you have to take that step and prove, I can be an NHL player this year. Oh, you have, Harris or Jack Eye, someone's, out for a couple of games with an injury. Call me up and I can be plugged into their spot and provide that same level of consistency for you. And I think he can do that. He's got solid skating. He's got solid instincts. He is vanilla ice cream, and that's not a bad thing. I said the same thing about David Reinbacher, in that there's never a bad time to have a solid base. And I think William Trudeau can be that player. It's just He's in such a tough spot that there are so many young, high-end potential defensive prospects in this system without even Bogdan Konechkov coming over yet. But you have the Engstrom, you have Mayu, you have Hudson, you have a guy like Goulet, and you have Jacky, and you have Struble, and you have Harris. Young. And Trudeau is right in that mix there, that he's still young, but he hasn't established himself like the group up here quite yet. I think he can do that. If he comes out of camp and has a strong camp again, he's going to make the Canadiens make a choice here. And I'm very interested to see how his preseason goes. I think he's going to be with the Rocket to start this year, and I need him to avoid that misstep of I didn't make the team and having that month or so of just looking lost. Another prospect, and this one's on the opposite end because they are brand new to the professional game. They've played a handful of pro games, and that's Luke Tuch. And here's the thing about Luke Tuch is big. Luke Tuch is strong, and Luke Tuch can shoot the puck very well. My biggest thing with him is he going to get lost in the shuffle of the deep forward group that's here? Because here's the thing about his game is it is not flashy. It is not fancy. It is a very straightforward power game. Think, and God, this is going to sound so mean and I apologize, great value brand Josh Anderson right now. If they work on developing that skating side of it, he has the physicality to be a nuisance, I think, in the AHL. He has good scoring instincts. He can score goals. At Boston, he kind of never really took that next big step. And I was curious whether or not they're going to offer him a deal. They saw enough in his game that he put up 30 points in 39 games for BU at the end of last season, at the end of his 4 years there. I think they are counting on him to be a smash mouth power player to complement a Sean Farrell, to complement a Riley Kidney, whom I also have as part of this here. I think that this is a big make or break season for him because if he can come in and prove that he's got a 2-year entry level deal and he signed an AHL deal to play immediately last year and start getting paid. If he can come in and take that smash mouth style of hockey to the pro level with some improved skating and decision making, I think he's someone who's absolutely going to have an inside track for a bottom 6 spot in Montreal before too long. He could be a 4th liner on the Canadiens this year if his preseason goes well enough. Because as we'll talk about in the professionals in the NHL section, Rafaël Harvey-Pinard is going to miss 4 months. That's not an indiscriminate amount of time for him. So I am very curious to see if Luke Tuch can take that step because he is, I don't want to say limited because that's not really what I want. What I mean by that is his profile is not high ceiling so much as it is, maybe a slightly lower floor. I think that if his skating picks up there, look at how his brother, developed at the NHL level using his speed and power game. That's something you could definitely look for because his brother's 28 years old and didn't really catch on at the NHL level. Like in Vegas, he had 37 points in 28 games or in 78 games. And it's like, okay. And then the next year it clicked. And then, he had a down year, came back a little bit, and then he's kind of leveled up. And then he went to Buffalo and it clicked again. And sometimes it's just a fit thing, but he's a powerful player. And Riley Kidney is on my prospect that needs to take a next step list. And Riley Kidney put up a ton of points in the QMJHL. And he's a very talented player. He got an entry-level deal for a reason in that there are times that he looks like a child out on the ice there. And his development wasn't there in the way that I had hoped for. That I don't see Riley Kidney on the ice making things happen. Every now and then he'd have a game where he'd put up 3 points and then he'd disappear for a little bit. And my thought is, can I get more of the 3-point guy who's making smart passes and getting in the right spot for goals? He's a guy that got bullied around out there and didn't have that effort to him. And he's someone that I think with Ivan Demidov coming into this group here and potentially big free agents, his window to make an NHL impact, and Sean Farrell can kind of fit this a little bit too, is getting smaller in that regard. A guy like Florian Jacky coming in is more likely to make an NHL roster because they can play the 4th line game. Jesse Olonen was let go and not qualified because he couldn't play that fourth line role, and the Canadiens didn't have a top 6 spot for him. And I'd rather another second round pick not go that way. Those are my 3. I think Xavier Simoneau is right on the list there, even though he is my favorite. And for Jakob Dobeš, with Jacob Fowler lingering in the wings here, Jakob Dobeš has to put together another strong performance. I'm not as worried about him as I am, but the opportunity is there for guys who want to seize that this season. If you can take that next step forward, you're going to be part of this rebuilding and reap those rewards. Guys who aren't able to take that next step, I have my worries about that. We're going to jump into the NHL group, and that's coming up next. We are back here at Locked On Canadiens. I am your host, Scott Matla, for almost one last time here. Who in the NHL is part of this make or break season? And we're just going to get this right out of the way because it is the absolute easiest one to talk about. And I'm sure everyone is sick of hearing about it and sick of waiting for something to happen with it. It's Josh Anderson. This is a guy that we know. We talked about Luke Tuch needing that power game to get to the next level. We've seen Josh Anderson at his peak with this team. The previous season before his high ankle sprain, during that playoff run, speed, using that wrist shot, that snapshot on the fly, bullying people with his power game, standing up for teammates. And then this year, confidence like sapped out of him like the Monstars made him touch a basketball or something. Just the guy that was streaky. All goal scorers are streaky unless you're Connor McDavid or Austin Matthews. His streaks were, there's nothing else in his game to complement that. And I'm not saying that he needs to become a playmaker. Caulfield added that to his game this past year. That's phenomenal and great. But with Anderson, when he wasn't scoring goals, I couldn't tell you what he was doing. The defensive effort wasn't there. Just in the offensive zone, mistake. This is a guy that has, 3 more years on his deal? And my thought with this is, you can still be a valuable contributor to this team. But are you going to be Josh Anderson from 2 years ago? Or are you going to be Josh Anderson from last year? Because if you're Josh Anderson from last year, I'm going to wait for the Canadiens to open arbitration and they're going to buy you out at a certain point. If you cannot prove that you can stick in this lineup and be a contributor regularly, I'm not asking Josh Anderson to score 40 goals. I'm asking Josh Anderson to give me 20 goals. 20, half of what, someone like we're expecting from Caulfield or Suzuki. Half of that. If you can give me a 2020 season, I think that Josh Anderson is going to be earning that money for the style that he plays. And I don't know if it's injuries, if it was just a confidence thing, but this is the year that you have to prove that you are here or not. Otherwise, I think Hughes will take whatever deal he gets offered. And if he doesn't get offered one, I think he'll buy you out as a player. Not because it's a mean-spirited thing, because it's a business decision. And here's the thing is, when Josh Anderson's on his game, and I know that's been rarer and rarer, he's fun to watch. He gets the puck and he's by 3 guys in a heartbeat. And you're watching him going on the rush and he's loading up and he's ripping it top shelf. He's hitting guys. He's fighting. He's devilishly handsome. Not part of his player analysis, but it's important that I mention that to everybody. But this is that last chance for him. And I think that if he can't prove that he can stick, it's you cut your losses. You get that off the books and you deal with that. You open up that cap space if you can, because there's other players that are going to need to be re-signed and free agents you're going to want to sign to take that next step. Beyond that, Rafaël Harvey-Pinard, Michael Pezzetta, I'm putting it as a 1-2. In a lost season, Harvey-Pinard came in and wowed everybody, scoring 14 goals in his time here. Absolutely outstanding stuff. Worked hard, hustled, scored goals, did a little bit of everything out there. Great penalty killer. Andrew Berkshire pointed that out to me. Last year, season from hell, injuries, not as effective in, out of the lineup. I thought for sure Rafaël Harvey-Pinard, bottom 6 winger last year, chalk up another 10 goals and we're laughing. Got a nice 2-year contract extension out of it. Deservedly so. And then this year, and this is not his fault, but missing 4 months from today. So it is July. It was middle of the week. So let's say he'll be ready by end of December. You've missed 2.5 to 3 months of the season. You've missed all of training camp. You've missed development camp because of a freak accident in, your pickup league, which is fine. But that's so tough for a guy that does not have a guaranteed spot in this roster right now. And I thought if he did, he's a fourth line winger again. He's got to come back. I assume they will do a rehab assignment. He'll play some games with the Rocket, which I don't hate that at all. And then he'll come up to the NHL roster in January. But he's got to hit it like a house of fire, basically, because you can find fourth line wingers. And here's the thing, they'll let him go and he'll go somewhere else and he'll immediately score 15 goals. And we'll be like, well, why did that happen? Sometimes it just doesn't work out. I think he has the mindset and the ability to make that work. It's just, I'm worried whether or not it's actually going to happen this year or not because of how much time he's going to miss. The deck is kind of stacked against him in that regard. But if he comes out and that effort is there, and let's say he gets 8 goals in the back half of the season as a fourth line guy, perfect. Not asking for the world here. For Michael Pezzetta, he's a guy in, out of the lineup. He had a really good first season under Martin St. Louis. He really took that jump when challenged in the 2021-2022 season in the AHL, where he was a fourth line AHL winger, and then something in his head got screwed. I think he had a conversation with Jean-Francois Houle about his playing style and, what he needs to do, and it clicked. He became a much more valuable, disciplined contributor, and then stuck at the NHL level. And that just getting back to basics with that, hit things that move smartly, chip in a few goals, be smart with the puck. The fourth line last year didn't work because it was disjointed, and he played a lot of almost entirely on the fourth line. I think that can be fixed. And my last guy, and this isn't really so much a make or break as it is I think that because of the type of player that he is, he's valuable elsewhere. I talked about vanilla ice cream with David Reinbacher and William Trudeau. Jordan Harris is like a more polished version of what William Trudeau could become. A dependable, any spot defenseman, smart with the puck, can work on the power play, can penalty kill, can be put in 5-on-5 situations, can skate the puck out. With all these other players coming in, especially with David Reinbacher in the system playing that similar, just smart, reliable style, for someone like Jordan Harris, what does your future timeline look like? Jaden Struble coming in and doing kind of similar, but with some snarl to his game and a little bit more physicality. I'm just so curious of what Jordan Harris's future holds on this team. I think that he is invaluable and that the Canadiens can plug and play him all over the lineup. But I also think because of the price of his deal, his youth on his side in this, and just his ability to plug and play anywhere, it makes him the most valuable trade asset on defense. And I'm not trading Mike Matheson in this regard. I think that he's in a spot where even if he has a good preseason, if one of the prospects has a good preseason, let's say Jaden Struble has a really strong preseason this year, and a team goes, hey, we, lost a guy to whatever, or it turns out this guy wasn't ready yet, we want to trade you prospector picks for Jordan Harris, I think they'll take that. I also think the Canadiens want to keep him here. I think he's a great ambassador for this team. I think he's a very strong piece on this defense, someone that I was really excited when they signed him. And he's someone that I think is also due for a bounce back, some bad luck last year. It's just he is in that spot where his contract and his ability to play anywhere really makes him just such a high value asset that it's kind of a make or break. And my other part with this, Caden Primo, if you can prove you can stick at the NHL level, you make it a lot interesting. You allow the Canadiens to keep Jacob Fowler in the AHL for a year potentially. If you prove you can't hack it full time as a backup, not in a 3-goalie rotation for most of the year, then they might go, well, here you go, Philadelphia, or here you go, whomever, in that. It's really interesting because there's a lot of guys that they're close on. I want to hear from you. Who has the biggest make or break season this year besides Josh Anderson? Because I already said that. Tweet responses at LO_Canadiens, LockedOnCanadiens@gmail.com. Which prospects do you think are most likely to, take that next step this year? You can tweet me as well at Scott Matla on the app formerly known as Twitter. My host is at The Active Stick. Ian is at Maybe It's Ian. You can find this podcast wherever you get your daily podcasts, Google, Apple, Spotify, or here on YouTube.com. Hot Ones, Friday, August 2nd, 7:30 p.m. That is my farewell show. We have a show tomorrow. We're going to talk bridge deals and some other stuff depending on news. Until then, thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you all next time.